Hello, and welcome to English for Philosophy students. We're doing Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life, and we are in rule number 5. We are in lesson number 37 of the overall book and lesson number 6 of rule number 5. Today, I want to try to get through, let me set the time. I want to try to get through kind of a large amount. I will show you. I want to get through all of this page, and all the way to here. Discipline and punish. My thing isn't working, darn. Discipline and punish. That is at least twice as much material as usual. And I want to show you how to organize your material so that you can read quickly. This is a speed reading technique for skimming. So, I'm going to explain the structure of this portion of the book, and then we will go quickly through the material because we will understand in advance what Jordan is saying. Okay? So let us give it a try. Oops. Okay, last week we began a segment that was called Parent or Friend. It was looking at the role of the adult. What is the difference between a parent and a friend? And Jordan was talking about how parents today are afraid of their children for several reasons. One reason is that they are afraid that they will be a bad parent and that they will hurt their child psychologically in the long term by something they do today when the child is small. They have been taught that children will be best if you do not regulate them. If you let them do whatever they want, then the parents have been taught the child will grow in creativity and self-confidence and self-esteem, etc. Jordan Peterson says this is not true. He says it is founded on the idea that children are born good, which is not true. So he is going to now move into a section where he tries to explain, number one, that children are not born good. So he will give examples of the bad behavior of young children. Also, he wants to justify the practice of disciplining your children and correcting them. He wants to teach parents that it is necessary and good for a child to be corrected and molded and disciplined. So this whole section is trying to teach parents that discipline of children is good for the child. So, we are going to look first okay. This is the beginning of our section today. I have highlighted in yellow the topic sentences, the main idea. We will read these sentences first. Then we will read the details which support these topics. So, here is our first paragraph. The topic sentence, the main idea is here. Children hit first because aggression is innate. This means the first reason that children hit. Not that children hit first before you hit them. That's not what it means. It means the first reason that children are aggressive, that children hit, is because aggression is innate. That is one of his first main ideas. Aggression is natural to a child. The second reason that children hit or are aggressive is because aggression facilitates desire. That means by aggression, a child gets what he wants. He sees a toy, he wants it, so he hits the child who has it and takes the toy. Now he has the toy. Okay? So, another portion of the main idea is this. It's foolish to assume that such behavior must be learned. Okay, so aggression is innate. It does not have to be learned. It facilitates desire, meaning it is rewarded in the world that we live in. Therefore, you do not have to teach a child at school to be aggressive to get your way. It is a natural characteristic of the world we live in that aggression brings a fulfillment of your own desires. So aggression is rewarded and it is innate. Those are the main ideas that he is talking about here. Now, one last main idea for this paragraph. This paragraph introduces all of the other material that we are reading today. Everything we are reading today is just examples and examples to prove these points. Okay? So the next point is down here, more importantly, for our purposes. So in our study, our discussion, an even more important reason for aggression, or not for aggression, for correcting children and training them. No, actually, sorry. It is reason for aggression. Sorry. The more important reason for aggression is children hit, so they do so, that means they hit, in order to discover the true limits of permissible behavior. Okay, that is a very crucial point in his thinking, which he will expand upon in the paragraphs which follow. So there are 3 reasons why children are aggressive and they hit. 1, violence is innate, they are born with it. 2, aggressive behavior is rewarded in the natural world that we live in. And 3, by being aggressive, they learn where the boundaries are. They learn the limits of acceptable behavior. If a child picks up a toy and hits his brother on the head, let us say this was a soft toy, like a teddy bear or a pillow, and he hits his brother. His mother may say, "Don't hit your brother." But if the child picks up a hammer and tries to hit his brother, which would kill the brother, the mother would run and grab the hammer and take it away and spank the child and say, "No, no, you don't hit your brother with a hammer. You don't touch the hammer. No, no, no." And the child learns, I can hit him with a pillow, but not with a hammer. He has learned the true limits of permissible behavior. Okay. So let us look a little more clearly at this paragraph, realizing that this paragraph contains all of the content for the entire reading today. The rest is just examples. So we'll begin at the beginning. Let's see. Maybe I'll take a new color. If I can hurt and overpower you, then I can do exactly what I want, when I want, even when you're around. This is the thinking of the child who it wants to hit. He wants to hit because he wants to do exactly what he wants. I can torment you to appease my curiosity if I want. I can take attention away from you. I can dominate you. I can steal your toy. This shows that aggression facilitates desire. It supports that main idea. It's foolish to assume that it must be learned. Okay, now, let us go back to green. Maybe a slightly different green. Now, it's foolish to assume that such behavior must be learned. A snake does not have to be taught to strike. So that is clearly an example that it does not have to be learned. It's in the nature of the beast. So this is a detail supporting the idea that it is innate. 2-year-olds, statistically speaking, are the most violent of people. That suggests it is innate. They kick, hit, and bite, and steal the property of others. They do so to explore, to express outrage and frustration, to gratify their impulsive desires. All of this shows that the behavior facilitates desire. These are all supporting details of the main ideas. And then, more importantly for our purposes, They do so to discover the true limits of permissible behavior. So we'll get one more color. I think I'll take this one this time. And I want you to see that he is supporting. How else are they ever going to puzzle out what is acceptable? Puzzle out means think and put together the data, put together the puzzle. They have, for example, when they hit their brother with a pillow, the mother says no. That is a puzzle piece. But she doesn't get up and run over and take the pillow away. She doesn't spank me or become upset. These are puzzle pieces. So maybe it's okay to hit my brother with a pillow. This is puzzling out what is acceptable. Infants, like babies, are like blind people searching for a wall. Infants are looking for a boundary. A wall is a boundary. They want to know the limits of acceptable behavior. So this again, a wall, limits of acceptable behavior. They have to push forward and test. Hitting and being aggressive is their test. They must do this, and you must show them where is the wall. Show them where the wall is. They test to see where the actual boundaries lie. And those are too seldom where they are said to be. For example, in my house, I live with Pedro and Tiffany de Carvalho, and they have 5 children under the age of 6. Every night, they send the children up to bed at 8 o'clock, and they say, go to bed. And every night, the children do not go to bed. They play, they jump, they fight, they don't turn off the light, they do not get into their, go to the bathroom and put on their night clothes. They just go upstairs and play. And maybe 1 or 2 hours later, their mother comes up and says, you're very bad, you didn't do it, spank, spank, spank. Where is the limit? And she says, they don't obey me. Why don't they obey me? The reason is because they have not been shown, the limit is whenever mommy gets tired and runs up the stairs, that's the moment, but it is not predictable. When I am in charge and put them to bed, I tell them, when I turn off the light, you must not get out of bed. You must not make noise so that I hear you. You cannot have toys, etc. I tell them exactly. And I say, if I hear you, I will come up and spank you. And I never hear them. They go right to bed. So when I am in charge, they know the limit. When their parents are in charge, they know the limit, but it is not a predictable limit, so they get in trouble a lot. So where the actual boundaries lie, which are not where they are said to be. Tiffany would say the boundary is, I told you to go to bed, but that is not the real boundary. She will not enforce it until she becomes tired, and then she wants them to be quiet. Okay, now, moving on to the next paragraph, we see a main idea which is of equal importance to the main ideas in the previous paragraph. After this one, you will see there are very few yellow highlights in the rest of the section. All of the main ideas are at the top. Okay, so here comes another main idea. Consistent correction of such action. Wait, I need my. Indicates the limits of acceptable aggression to the child. Its absence merely heightens the curiosity. So the child will hit and bite and kick if he is aggressive and dominant until something indicates a limit. Until something indicates a limit. Okay, so this is a main idea. Consistent correction. Consistent means it's always the same. Actually, I don't want this one. I want it to be, let's make it blue. Consistent correction. Always the same, reliable. Of such action indicates the limit of acceptable aggression to the child. Its absence, what's absence? The absence of consistent correction. Absence of correction merely heightens curiosity. The child doesn't know what the limit of acceptable behavior is. So, their behavior becomes worse and worse until someone puts a stop to it. That is why this philosophy of let your child do anything they want to explore is so pernicious. It is a bad philosophy because children need to know the true limits of acceptable, permissible behavior. And bad behavior is their way of testing, and they're asking for guidance. To withhold the correction is to withhold guidance. The rest of this whole thing is going to be all about that. All right, let's look at the next main idea. Correction also helps the child learn that hitting others is a suboptimal social strategy. Without that correction, no child is going to undergo the effortful process of organizing and regulating their impulses. Okay, so children need to organize and regulate their impulses. A child has an impulse to grab a toy. He also has an impulse to please people around him, like the other child or the mother. How will he regulate these two opposing impulses? If grabbing the toy makes him feel good and is rewarded, and there's no negative consequence with the mother, clearly he will grab the toy. But if grabbing the toy, which makes him feel happy because he has the toy, brings anger from mommy, well, then he learns not to grab the toy. He is learning to regulate his impulses. It is no simple matter to organize a mind. This is an effortful process for the child. Okay. Hitting others is a suboptimal social strategy. Sub means below. Optimal means perfect or best. So this is not best as a social strategy. It does get you the toy sometimes, but it is bad for your social interactions. Okay, so correction, that means parental parents disciplining and correcting helps the child learn that aggression is bad, and it helps him in the very difficult, effortful means difficult, it requires effort, process of organizing and regulating impulses, which is not a simple matter for a child. Okay, so these are the main ideas. Now, everything that we are going to read today supports these ideas. We can read more quickly because you will see what Jordan is doing is now telling stories. He is giving anecdotal support for his thesis. An anecdote is a story, a short story. He is giving anecdotal support for his theses. And it will be easier and faster for us to read through. So let's read through. I will just pull up a nice color. We'll use baby blue. Okay. I will read to you. And you should think, how does this story reinforce these main ideas that we have already considered? Okay. Jordan is speaking. My son was particularly ornery. Ornery means mischievous, kind of bad, but not in a terrible way, not evil, just hard to handle. Ornery when he was a toddler. Toddler is maybe age 1 to 3. When my daughter was little, I could paralyze her into immobility with an evil glance. Excuse me. So the daughter, he could give a look like, and she was paralyzed. But the son, no. Such an intervention, as a glance, had no effect at all on my son. He had my wife stymied at the dinner table by the time he was 9 months of age. Okay, my wife, who is no pushover. My wife, who is no pushover, someone who cannot be bullied, a strong woman, this child had my wife stymied. Stymied means defeated. She doesn't know what to do. She loses the battle. Stymied at the dinner table, meaning doesn't know what to do. She has lost the battle of control with regard to eating. Table manners. He had my wife stymied at the dinner table by the time he was 9 months old. He fought her for control over the spoon. He wanted to feed himself, so he fought to hold the spoon. Good, we thought. We didn't want to feed him. 1 minute more than necessary anyway. Good, if he can feed himself, that's great. But, something bad is coming. But, the little blighter is like ornery. It means a mischievous child who is, you're mad at them, but it's gentle. The little blighter would only eat 3 or 4 mouthfuls. He only ate a little bit. Then he would play. He would stir his food around in his bowl. He would, by the way, that instruction means he did it as a habit over time. He often did this, very often, not just once. He did it every day. He would do this means as a habit in the past. He would only eat 3 or 4 mouthfuls, then he would play. He would stir his food around in his bowl. He would drop bits of it over the high chair, tabletop. So he would take the food and drop it just to see it fall. And watch as it fell on the floor below. No problem, says Jordan. He was exploring. Okay, give him a chance to do it once or twice. But, something different, then he wasn't eating enough because he would only eat 3 or 4 mouthfuls before beginning to play. So now he isn't eating. And then, because he wasn't eating enough, he wasn't sleeping enough. Notice parallel structure. He wasn't eating, he wasn't sleeping. Parallel, same construction over and over. That's good writing in English. Then, his midnight crying was waking his parents. Then, they were getting grumpy and out of sorts. Out of sorts means irritable. He was frustrating his mother, making her feel frustrated. And she was taking it out on me. Taking it out on me means she is frustrated at him and she is mean to me because she is mad at him. You're taking it out on me means I am not to blame, but you are punishing me. The trajectory wasn't good. Trajectory means the direction this is going. This is a bad situation which will get worse. After a few days of this degeneration, meaning a bad situation getting worse, I decided to take the spoon back. So the boy has been doing these bad things. Jordan says, no, you are not going to feed yourself. I will feed you. I prepared for war. I set aside sufficient time. So he is not in a hurry. He knows this will take an hour or a half an hour. A patient adult can defeat a 2-year-old, hard as that is to believe. A patient adult can defeat a 2-year-old. As the saying goes, old age and treachery can always overcome youth and skill. Old age and treachery can always overcome youth and skill. Treachery means doing what you should not do, being not fair. So old people can win the battle over young people by fighting unfairly. This is partly because time lasts forever when you are 2. So small children experience time more slowly than adults. So I can sit for an hour and fight with my child to eat lunch, and to an hour is forever. Half an hour for me was a week for my son. I assured myself of victory. So he knew he was going to win. He was stubborn and horrible, but I could be worse. I could be more stubborn and horrible. We sat down face to face, bowl in front of him. It was high noon. High noon is the name of a movie. It is a Western. And at high noon, people are going to get shot. It is a euphemism for a battle to the death. It was high noon, and he knew it, and I knew it. We both knew this is the battle to the death. He picked up the spoon. I took it from him and spooned up a delicious mouthful of mush. That is kind of funny because mush is something no adult would ever eat. Blech. Delicious mouthful of mush. I moved it deliberately towards his mouth. He eyed me, meaning he looked at me, in precisely the same manner as the playground foot monster. Remember last week or the week before, we talked about Jordan took his daughter to the playground and she was climbing on a bar and a little boy came and stepped on her fingers while looking at Jordan to see what he would do. Well, now Jordan's son is looking at him in the same way. He curled his lips downward into a tight frown, so that would be rejecting all entry. So Jordan is trying to put the food in, and the child is, He will not open his mouth. I chased his mouth around with the spoon, so I'm like, eat it, eat it, eat it, as he twisted his head in tight circles. But something new is coming. I had more tricks up my sleeve. Tricks up my sleeve is a euphemism for ideas of how to win. I had tricks up my sleeve. I poked him in the chest, like this with your finger, with my free hand, in a manner calculated to annoy. So he is doing it very carefully to be just enough to annoy the boy, not to hurt him, to bother him, but not hurt him. He didn't budge. He kept his mouth shut. I did it again and again and again. Not hard, but not in a manner to be ignored either. So not so hard as to hurt him, but hard enough to bother him. 10 or so, about 10, pokes later. He opened his mouth, planning to emit a sound of outrage. Ah! Ha ha ha. His mistake. I deftly, means with skill, inserted the spoon. He tried gamely. Gamely means against overwhelming odds, you're going to keep trying. You're going to play the game. He tried gamely to force out the offending food with his tongue. He tried to spit it out. But I know how to deal with that too. I just placed my forefinger. This is your forefinger. We also call it index finger. I placed my forefinger horizontally across his lips. And when the food came out, Jordan pushed it back in. Some came out, but some was swallowed too. Score 1 for Dad. So Dad, meaning Jordan, gets 1 point for making the food go in. Then I gave him a pat on the head and told him he was a good boy. And I meant it. You're a good boy. Every time the food is swallowed, Jordan says, you're a good boy, showing that as a social strategy, obedience is optimal and disobedience is suboptimal socially. When someone does something you are trying to get them to do, reward them. So they will learn this is the optimal social strategy. No grudge after victory. You don't say, you ate your food, but it took an hour, so I'm going to punish you for that. We don't say that. We say, you're a good boy. You ate your food. An hour later, it was all over. There was outrage. The boy was outraged during the hour. There was some wailing. Wailing is crying. Wah! Loud crying. My wife had to leave the room. She couldn't stand it. The stress was too much. But food was eaten. That's a good thing. By my child. My son collapsed, exhausted. On my chest. And we took a nap together. So son laid on the chest, took a nap, and he liked me a lot better when he woke up than he had before he was disciplined. This is key because the parents are afraid that the child will hate them or that they cannot be the child's friend. But more commonly, the child loves the adult who effectively disciplines and shows them the limits of acceptable behavior so that the child can be successful. This was something I commonly observed. In other words, I always saw this when we went head to head. In other words, when Jordan disciplined his son and showed him how to behave properly, then the boy liked him better afterwards. And not only with him, that son, but other children as well. Now we have another story, another anecdote, which will support it, continue to support the same idea. A little later, we entered into a babysitting swap with another couple. A swap is an exchange. So I watch your child today, you watch my child tomorrow. Exchange of service. All the kids would get together at one house, then one pair of parents would go out to dinner or a movie and leave the other pair of parents to watch the children, who were all under 3. One evening, another set of parents joined us, so now we have 3 pairs of parents. I was unfamiliar with their son, a large, strong boy of 2 years old. He won't sleep, the father said. After you put him to bed, he will crawl out of bed and come downstairs. We usually put on an Elmo video and let him watch it. So they reward the child for coming downstairs. He gets to watch a video. Jordan thinks to himself, there's no damn way I'm rewarding a recalcitrant child for unacceptable behavior. I thought. He didn't say it, he only thought it. And I'm certainly not showing anyone any Elmo video. No way. I always hated that creepy, whiny puppet, Elmo. He was a disgrace to Jim Henson's legacy. So, Jordan doesn't like Elmo. So, reward by Elmo was not on the table. On the table is a phrase that means it is one option. We have a decision to make, and we have several possibilities on the table. We will choose one of the possibilities that are on the table. If something's not on the table, it is not available to be chosen. So Elmo is not on the table. I didn't say anything, of course. There is just no talking to parents about their children. This construction, there's just no talking to you, means I can't really talk to you and expect a good interaction because you are closed. There's no talking to you. There's just no talking to parents about their children until they are ready to listen. This whole thing is a common phrase. He is adding something that is not part of the phrase, until they are ready to listen. 2 hours later, we put the kids to bed. 4 of the 5 children went promptly to sleep right away, but not the Muppet aficionado. That means the person who loves to watch Elmo. I had placed him in a crib. A crib is a bed for babies that has walls that baby cannot climb out of. However, so he couldn't escape. They did not let him sleep in a regular bed. But he could still howl. Howl is another loud cry. Wah! That's howling. And that's exactly what he did. He howled. That was tricky. It was good strategy on his part. This is a war. It was annoying to me, and it threatened to wake up all the other kids, who would then also start to howl. So, good strategy. What is Jordan going to do about it? It's a problem. Hold on. Score 1 for the kid. Remember, we scored 1 for Jordan when he got his son to eat. Well, now it's score 1 for the kid. He wins this round, or he has a good strategy. So, what is Jordan going to do? I journeyed into the bedroom. Lie down, I said. That produced no effect. The child did not listen to lie down. Lie down, I said, or I will lay you down. Reasoning with kids isn't often of too much use. It doesn't work. It's not of use, particularly under such circumstances. That would mean a power struggle, a circumstance where the child is testing limits. Reasoning with them will not work. But I believe in fair warning, so I'm going to begin by reasoning. Of course, he didn't lie down. He howled again, for effect. Now, he is going to go into an aside. The aside has a main idea, and the main idea is that there are common reasons for crying. Anger is a common reason for crying. Children are not always sad or hurt when they cry. This whole paragraph is about that. So we'll go back. Careful analysis of the musculature patterns of crying children has confirmed the idea that angry crying is different than sad crying. Anger crying and fear or sadness crying do not look the same. They don't sound the same. They can be distinguished with careful attention. Anger crying is often an act of dominance and should be dealt with as such. They're not hurt, they're not sad, they are trying to dominate. You must respond with force to show them where the limits are. I lifted him up, the boy, and laid him down gently, patiently, but firmly. He got up. I laid him down. He got up. I laid him down. He got up. So over and over, he kept laying him down. This time, I laid him down and kept my hand on his back. He held him down. He struggled mightily, but ineffectually. He couldn't get up. He was, after all, only 1/10 my size. I could take him. I can take him means I will beat him in a battle. I will win if we fight. So this is figurative. I could take him with one hand. So I kept him down and spoke calmly to him and told him he was a good boy, because he's laying down, and told him that he should relax. I gave him a soother and pounded gently on his back. This, I believe, is a pacifier. It's a nipple that you put in a child's mouth so they can suck. And pounded gently on his back. He started to relax. His eyes began to close. I removed my hand. He promptly got to his feet as soon as you stopped. I was impressed. The kid had spirit. I lifted him up and laid him down again. "Lie down, monster," I said. I pounded his back gently some more. Some kids find that soothing. He was getting tired. He was ready to capitulate, to give in. He closed his eyes. I got to my feet and headed quietly and quickly to the door. I glanced back to check his position one more time, and he was back on his feet. I pointed my finger at him and said, "Down, monster." And I meant it. And he went down like a shot. Pow! I closed the door. We liked each other. Neither my wife nor I heard a peep out of him for the rest of the night. Heard a peep out of him is a frequent way of saying he was very quiet, and it's used mainly for children. "How was the kid?" his father asked me when he got home, much later. "Good," I said. "No problem at all. He's asleep right now." "Did he get up?" asked the father. "No, he slept the whole time." The dad looked at me. He wanted to know. He wanted to know how Jordan did it, but he didn't ask, and I didn't tell. Don't cast pearls before swine, as the old saying goes. Jesus said, don't cast your pearls before swine, because the swine will ruin the pearls and then turn and attack you. It's kind of a hard to understand saying of Jesus, but he's suggesting that you do not preach to people who don't want to hear. So don't bother telling parents who don't want to hear how to discipline their children. So Jordan says, don't cast your pearls before swine. And you might think that's harsh, not to tell the parents what they're doing wrong, but training your child not to sleep and rewarding him with antics of a creepy puppet, that's harsh too. You pick your poison, I'll pick mine. Pick your poison means people often choose something which isn't very good for them. And we have many choices. Some are really bad, and some are only a little bit bad. And we say, okay, pick your poison. So Jordan is saying, okay, I am harsh because I didn't tell the father how to fix the problem. But the father is harsh. Harsh means uncalled for meanness. The father is harsh because he is not training his child to sleep, and he is rewarding non-sleep with letting him watch a creepy puppet. So Jordan prefers to be mean by not telling people things than to be mean by training your child badly. Okay, we got through the whole section. And that's the end. We're out of time. So I'll see you next week.